The Brinly Broadcast Tow Spreader Assembly Video. This video will apply to both the 125 and 175 pound Brinly broadcast spreaders, models BS-26BH and BS-36BH. Tools required for assembly: 2 1/2-inch wrench and sockets, 2 7/16-inch wrench and sockets, pliers, and flathead screwdrivers. For safety rules and operating hints, see page 3 of your manual. Pages 4 and 5 in your manual can be used as a hardware identifier. The illustrations on pages 4 and 5 are to scale. For faster identification of hardware during assembly, use pages 4 and 5 as your hardware identifier. Step 1. Install the hopper support to the hopper. Install 6 1/4 inch by 1 3/4 inch hex bolts and a 1/4 inch thrust washer through the top of the hopper and through the support frame as shown. Step 1B. Secure the bottoms of each bolt with a 1/4 inch lock nut. To avoid damaging the plastic, do not over-tighten the hardware. Step 2. Attach the tow tube. Attach the tow tube to the hopper support. Secure using 2 5/16" by 2 3/4 inch hex bolts and 2 5/16-18 hex nuts. Step 3. Adding the assembly fan to the transmission. Slide the fan driver and fan onto the shaft of the transmission assembly until both reach the pin spring. Note, this is for pre-assembly only. Final adjustment of the fan is made later. Step 4. Install the transmission and axle. Step 4A. Maneuver the transmission assembly shaft into the center hole of the hopper assembly. Ensure that the slot of the transmission brace rests on top of the 2 tow tube hex nuts previously installed on Step 2 as shown. Note, failure to install the transmission bracket correctly may void the warranty. 4B. Insert the axle through both the hopper support square openings and through the center of the transmission assembly as shown. Note, the axle needs to be installed as shown in order to engage the transmission assembly. Step 4C. Rotate the axle to line up the hole with the hole in the transmission assembly hub and insert the hairpin cotter. Step 4D. Secure the transmission brace by attaching 2 5/16" flat washers and 2 nylon lock nuts and fully tighten. Step 5. Installing the wheels. Step 5A. Add the following hardware to the end of the axle in this order as shown: 1 axle bearing, 1 5/8" flat washer, 1 spacer, 1 or 2 5/8" flat washers as needed, 1 wheel, then another 5/8" flat washer, and 1 E-ring snapped onto the end. Repeat this step with the other wheel, adding 1 axle bearing, 1 flat washer, 1 spacer, another flat washer, 1 wheel, and a flat washer and the E-snapping ring. Step 5B. Secure the axle to the left wheel by inserting the hairpin cotter through the wheel hub and axle. Note, the axle may need to be turned in order to line up the hole in the axle with the hole through the wheel hub. Step 6. Fan adjustment. Adjust the fan upwards on the shaft as close as possible to the bottom of the hopper without touching it during operation. Note, the fan and fan driver normally rest on the spring pin, but may be adjusted upwards approximately 1/8 inch. Step 7. Installing the agitator. 7A. Place the O-ring over the transmission shaft and slide down to the hopper bottom to create a seal. Step 7B. Slide the agitator spring over the transmission shaft. Step 7C. Insert the cotter pin through the spring and hole at the top of the transmission shaft. Flare the ends with a wrench to keep in place. Step 8. Installing the Clevis. 8A. Attach the upper and lower Clevis halves to the tow tube and secure with 2 5/16" by 2 inch carriage bolts and 2 5/16" nylon hex nuts as shown. 8B. Insert the 1/2 inch by 2 1/2 inch hitch pin into the Clevis and secure with the hairpin cotter. Step 9. Assemble the gauge plate. 9A. Insert the stop handle through the slot opening at the top of the gauge plate. 9B. Insert the S-shaped end of the link rod through the upper hole of the flow control handle. 9C. Assemble the flow control to the gauge plate as shown using the following hardware. Slide a 5/16" washer onto a 5/16" by 2 3/4" hex bolt and pass the bolt through the round hole of the gauge plate. Then add a spacer to the bolt before passing the bolt through the hole in the bottom of the stop handle. Then pass the hex bolt through a special washer, the spring, another special washer, and the other end of the gauge plate. Now add one more 5/16" washer to the end of the hex bolt and secure in place with a 5/16" hex nut. Note, the gate and handle movement can be adjusted by tightening or loosening this bolt. Step 9D. Attach the handle stop and knob by putting the curved washer on one 5/16" by 3/4" carriage bolt and passing the bolt through the inside of the top slot on the gauge plate. Then pass the bolt through the square hole on the handle stop and add the knob to the end of the bolt to secure. The tightening and loosening of this knob will allow you to adjust the handle position. Step 9E. Slide the flat rubber grip onto the end of the flow control handle. Step 10. Attach the gauge plate to the spreader. 10A. Rotate the assembled gauge plate approximately 90 degrees clockwise and insert the formed end of the link rod into the hole provided on the hopper control plate as shown. Step 10B. Rotate the gauge plate counterclockwise until the handle is oriented upward and the bottom of the gauge plate is over the tow tube. Step 10C. Attach the gauge plate to the tow tube by adding 2 flat washers to 2 5/16" by 2 3/4" hex bolts and passing the hex bolts through the slotted holes at the bottom of the gauge plate. Then pass the bolts through a spacer before passing them through the tow bar, adding another spacer, then pass them through the other side of the gauge plate, add another washer, and a 5/16" hex nut. Note, do not tighten the hex nuts until after calibrating the gauge plate. Step 11. Calibrate the gauge plate. 11A. Loosen the knob and move to the number 10 open position. Then retighten the knob. 11B. Move the flow control handle to the number 10 open position. 11C. Ensure the hopper control gate opens fully. If not, slide the gauge plate forward or backward until the control gate is fully open. 11D. Tighten the gauge plate securely to the tow tube by tightening the hardware installed on step 10. 11E. Move the flow control handle to the closed position and verify the hopper control gate fully closes. 11F. Tighten the flow control handle securely to the gauge plate by tightening the hardware assembled in step 9. Note, if the handle is still moving, you can tighten the bolts inside of the hopper by small 1/8 turn increments, but do not over-tighten or the directional control may become difficult to adjust. Congratulations, your Brinly broadcast tow spreader is now ready for operation. The Brinly tow spreader has been designed, engineered, and manufactured to give you the best possible dependability and performance. For questions, please call customer service at 877-728-8224. Brinly, making things better since 1839.